Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected shaitan. And in the name of Allah, I testify that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave, servant, and messenger. This being said, to the rest of the audience members, greetings, and I extend my general well wishes to you, and I hope that you're doing okay, and that this message be a benefit to all of us. I initially recorded a much longer message than this one, but suffice it to say that there are two main points I wanted to drive home in this message. Now, I'm recording this 2 days after I found out about Hamza Yusuf's dumb comments, and the day after I heard about his clarification, which was really was not an apology. As I've said before, we should not have been listening to this joker for a long time before this. I know who he was, how he was before 9/11 because I watched his talks. I didn't know who he was until after 9/11, but I watched him before 9/11. I mean, after 9/11. I watched his tapes that were recorded before 9/11. And he was too much for me to digest as a new Muslim. It wasn't his intentions that bothered me. It was just he would give these talks, and he spoke so little English in his talks. I was like, this dude is he's got an identity crisis. You know, when I became Muslim, I'd heard jokes about people who became Muslim and they kept on becoming until they became an Arab or Pakistani. I'd heard jokes about converts like that. I was like, wow, I guess he's still trying to become an Arab, huh? That's what I thought. I wasn't correct at that time, but that's what I thought. I didn't know any better. Because he couldn't stick with English for long enough to finish a sentence. So, then after 9/11, I began to see tapes of him afterwards. And he was a different person. I mean, completely different. And one day, I realized he's the same guy that I saw a few days after 9/11. Sitting behind Bush while Bush made jokes about guys with big beards and turbans. And he didn't say anything, he didn't visibly show any signs of disapproval. I said, no, that's not militant enough. Now, I mean, Islam might be about more than just being militant and fitting the stereotypes of the militant, but there is a default level of militancy and self-respect in anything that we do. Anything that forms an identity for us. I mean, black people aren't the only community to have sellouts. I said, okay, all right. I know in the black community, he'd be considered a sellout. So, what about in the Muslim community? And I later found out from a scholar who taught a class that, yes, that would be considered selling out, so to speak, because Muslims are forbidden from sitting there with people who make a mockery of our religion. And he sat and didn't even show visible. Now, granted, you don't know what someone's going to say until they say it, but there was no sign of disapproval at all. I think he even clapped as others were talking, as others were clapping. That was a warning to me right there. Now, add to that, you've got Sufis who don't change the religion at all, and you've got Sufis who make changes, so to speak. And I wasn't sure which one he was. I've been warned that he actually made some changes to the religion. So I said, okay, they know better than me. I'm not going to argue. But I later learned about certain things he said. And I'm going to let you do the research yourself. But pre 9/11, he would not have minded covering the issues that people don't want to talk about now, like nullifying your Islam. He would not have minded. He wouldn't. The Hamza that I saw on those tapes would not have shrunk away from, talking about it and warning people about the things that could nullify their shahada. Post 9/11, he wouldn't even want to discuss it. He tried to minimize it. No, that's important. We need to know this. So we shouldn't have been listening to him from a long time ago, to be honest. We should not have been doing this. And that's the first thing I wanted to make mention of. And he's not the only one that we probably shouldn't have been listening to. I mean, if you go too far into these conflicts that that da'is and scholars have with each other, you probably be left with nobody worth listening to be honest. I mean, everybody's going to have something to say bad about someone else, but if you actually just go by what the evidences are, then many people would say, and many people looked at what the evidences were and they said, I'm done listening to this guy. Said it years ago. That's the first thing I wanted to make mention of. Now, Bunna Muhammad was very nice in the way that he handled Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. I'm not going to be as forgiving because of these other things. So I'm not going to forgive him for what he said about the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, the organization, yeah, I got issues with that. But the concept of protesting against police brutality and not blaming black victims for their own deaths is, in fact, very common sense, but it's also very revolutionary. Why? Because we're brainwashed to blame black people for black people's problems. Now, black people's problems don't start with black people. Black people's problems involve each other, but they don't start or end with each other. I mean, the black man and the black woman right now were at odds with each other. We didn't start that conflict, though. White people started that. The ones who started it are dead, but the ones who perpetuated it are still alive. So it was white society, white power, white supremacy, white America that started this. I didn't hear one condemnation of white America. You want to talk about black people's problems? Okay, you can try to propose solutions for black people, but you got to condemn white America for starting these things. Blaming white America and white society and the white Western world is part and parcel of understanding the problem. We're told that's not constructive. Man, the hell with what white America says is constructive. They're the problem. They're the root of it. And as a matter of fact, we can talk about building. That's fine. We should. White America is so dangerous that if we build anything, we'd have to have more guns than them to protect it. Now, that's truth. I'm not making this up. Black Wall Street was only one example. Rosewood was another. Seneca Village was another. They have a history of doing this. There's a town in North Carolina that was all black and starting to prosper. I forgot its name, and it got attacked and burned down. This is a history that America has. You're black, you prosper, you get independent, they burn you to death. That's what they do. First bomb never dropped from the air on any city was inside the U.S. before the World Wars. On Black Tulsa, Black Wall Street. So yeah, we should build, that's true, but we should build and also protect. Bottom line, they're going to force us to kill them or they're going to kill us off if we do start building. And we know this. Subconsciously and consciously, we know this. We know this is what will happen. So let's not lie about this. Hamza didn't address any of this stuff, and he knew it. I know Hamza knew this stuff, and he never addressed it. He did not just get up there and make a silly and stupid error. I'm telling you, he intentionally left out stuff that he knew when he said what he said. But that's not the only problem. See, Hamza was a problem from the beginning, from a long time ago. Like I said, research for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't just see how many scholars condemn him. Look at what evidences they offer in favor of that. Some of these scholars have said things that nullify their own shahada, but they'll be able to point out what he has said that's seriously problematic. Some of them will tell you things he said that nullified his shahada. They'll tell you. Like I said, don't take my word, research it. Because I don't like to throw this kind of information around about anybody lightly and loosely. But I'm not going to ignore it in this case because he put himself out there just now. What I'm telling you is that, see, he was a problem from the beginning. There's a bigger problem in there. The bigger problem is when he made these dumb comments he made a few days ago. What the hell were the rest of you niggas in there doing clapping? And when I say niggas, I ain't talking about black folks. No, I'm talking about other Muslims of color from other brown parts of the world. What the hell were you doing clapping when he talked like that? Okay, then let's blame the suffering of Muslims on the Muslims only and never ever blame those who bring the suffering. Okay, no defending yourselves again from the Indian forces in Kashmir. No defending yourselves because it's your own sins that caused this. It's your fault. Don't defend yourselves from them. Palestinians, don't defend yourselves from the Israelis. It's your fault. Syrians, don't defend yourselves from the forces. It's your fault. You see how faulty that logic is? Well, it's the same thing with us. But it's accepted when people say this about us. Now, this shows that brainwashing and white supremacy are universal. They're global. They're not just an American phenomena. They are global. So, I wanted to point that out. Last thing I want to point out is this. Hamza Yusuf doesn't even he doesn't resemble or he does not represent or even resemble other Muslims that are Caucasian in the United States. I don't know about England and in Europe and Australia and New Zealand. I'm not really sure about their white Muslims. From what I can see, they're about the same as in the United States in this exemplary manner that I'm going to point out, and that is that they're generally against white supremacy and discrimination. And I applaud them for it. They're oftentimes the ones that are the most against it, while other Muslims of color who are fawning over them are not against it. And they get sick of it a lot of times. They admit after a while when they see this pattern, they say, wait a minute, I'm being treated better than the Muslim over here from Latin America and the Muslim over here from Harlem. Why am I being treated better than them? No. Okay, you know what? You racist too. Thank you for making me the spokesperson for the masjid, but now I see why you're doing it. You're racist. You know what? If you don't make him a spokesperson with me, I'm resigning. Oftentimes, they're the ones who are doing this. You really want to know the truth? They're the ones doing it. They're the ones that are out there some of them are the only ones who will oppose white supremacy to the same degree that black folks will oppose it. And ain't other people of color always doing that, especially the Muslims. No. The Muslims that are out there opposing specifically white supremacy are generally of African origin and of European origin. Ironically, Eastern or Western European, when they understand the nature of white supremacy, they're out there against it. You get other Muslims that are brown, melanated, and their youth are against white supremacy, but they're not outspoken against it because the elders are keeping them in check. But the elders of those communities don't care. I mean, they're part and parcel of white supremacy, or they're upholding it. Hell, instead of practicing the 5 pillars of Islam, they become pillars of white supremacy and don't even know it. So, this being said, no, I don't want other Muslims that are white to be blamed for what Hamza Yusuf said. Generally speaking, they are not only our brothers and sisters, they actually act like it. You can ask Dawood Walid about that. Ask him how the Bosnians treated him compared to how other Muslims of color treated him and see what he says. And Dawood Walid has done some good work bringing publicity against the racism of other people of color that are Muslim, against black people, and never against white folks. Not even against the white non-Muslims that colonize their lands. No, they don't discriminate against them, and he points that out very well. And he shamed people like that. My fist goes up, and my hat goes off to him. Keep up the good work, man. But no, the Ummah does not need to be forgiven of Hamza. Because this is actually a symptom of a bigger problem, and that is that he's not working for the interest of Muslims. I mean, what kind of Islam does he promote? That's how you can generally tell. What kind of Islam does he promote? And who approves of it from outside of the ranks of the Muslims? That's how you can tell. I mean, to this day, we look at Malcolm and we say the Klan hated Malcolm more than they hated Martin Luther King. So nowadays we look and say he was smart. And MLK became like him, and that's when he died. So Malcolm must have been on to something. It was the opposition to Malcolm at times that made us look and say he's right. Well, you know, the approval of Islamophobes is a sign that somebody's doing something wrong. Sorry, that is. So I just wanted to point out that he's a bigger problem than what we think. This is just a minor symptom. And that other Muslims that are white are really not part of the problem. At least not where I live and have lived. And that we have been betrayed for a long time by other Muslims who are stupid enough to clap when he says some of the dumb stuff he says. Why? Because they are so uncomfortable confronting white supremacy. They're more uncomfortable confronting white supremacy than the Muslims who are white. Because you can see it, because the Muslims who are white will confront it and the Muslims of color will not. What the hell does that tell you? I hope that this message has been a benefit. And to any of you who are not a part of the problem, and you know you're not a part of the problem, don't take offense. I'm not recording this to blame the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. But if you are not a part of the problem and you know someone that is, even if they're related to you, you know what your job is. Go ahead and confront them and cause the fitna. Some of you say it would divide the family. Great. Your family doesn't deserve to be unified, if that's the case. Any of the family that would react negatively to being corrected does not deserve the unity of the rest of the family who can tolerate being corrected and wants to make improvements in themselves and in their relationships with others, and ultimately their relationships with Allah. That's not a family that needs to be unified. And you're not the one that's guilty. The stubborn people, when they're wrong, are the ones who are guilty. So throw your conscience, give your conscience a rest and confront them. And if the family gets divided, great. Stick with the ones who are on the side of the line that is against white supremacy and discrimination. And don't give me this colorblind mess either. So, to the ones of you that are against it, continue to be against it. Get up in the faces of your family members and the elders and disrespect them. And to the ones of you who are for all of this discrimination and the continuation of white supremacy, may Allah cause you a painful death and embarrass you in front of everybody else unless you are willing to take correction. I hope this message has been of benefit. Assalamu alaikum.